What's up, YouTube? Welcome to part 2 of the Predator armor build video. I also made the mask if you want to check that out in an older video. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Captain Assassin. No real reason. I just wanted to give you a shout out and say thank you. You've been a long time supporter. Also, William Hall, sorry you didn't win the contest giveaway. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's a new subscriber. And thank you to all the old subscribers as well. And let's just go ahead and jump right into the build. Okay, so picking up from where we left off, one of the first things I want to do to this before I start putting on any final detail pieces and cuts and so on and so forth is I want to sand up a lot of the rough edges. And it's just areas like up and through the collar, for example. And over here, these overlapping pieces, I end up crudely cutting off the excess. You can see this looks really bad. Part of me was just going to leave it jagged because it is Predator armor and it's all beat up. But nah, I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to sand all this stuff flush and then go through and do specific weathering and detailing on it. And any other of like the seams here, I can get this up a little closer, get it focused. You'll notice there's just some little burrs and jags and different stuff on there that I can end up smoothing out just so the final product looks better. Also want to round these edges so you don't so much see the texture from this underside here sticking out. And any sort of sanding you can do by hand, but investing in a Dremel rotary tool is definitely worth the money, especially the adjustable ones. I've gotten comments from people asking how fast mine is. Mine is adjustable, and I usually run it between 10 and 2500 RPM. That's it. So, yeah, 1000 to 2500 RPMs is about where I run it. I think they said theirs was 3 or 4000. Every time they try to use it on the foam, it just gouges it. So using a light hand and being even with it will set up out here, and my light's set up. And, you know, this kind of popped up in the last video. I didn't mention it. This is my high-tech mannequin chest that I'm using for this because, you know. And here I have my Dremel 4000, and I have it set, if I can get this to focus on this, I have this set at a little bit under 20,000, or I mean 2,000 RPMs, about 1,800, and like I say, it goes all the way up to only 4,000. For some reason I thought it was 10,000. Anyways, I'm going to keep it right around there. And what I meant by being light and not heavy-handed with this and trying to be as even as possible is whenever I'm doing this, I don't just turn it on and just sand into it. You're going to take a huge chunk out. Just think like just shaving off little bits. Very slowly and carefully till you can get it even. I'll go ahead and turn this on. You can already see that this is much smoother now. So I've taken this to it, and you notice I'm going very light. Now for big areas or something I'm not super worried about, like this texture I was talking about on the inside here, I will go ahead and do much more heavy-handed and broader strokes, but still pretty light. Like that, just to help take the edge off. And I'm not going to film all the rest of the sanding, but like I say, any area that is rough or uneven or just has a crappy cut from me, my fault, or that I glued a little. I think this side is about a millimeter or two higher than this side, so this just needs to be sanded down and evened out to this. That's my own user error, but that's why I love the Dremel rotary tool and why I suggest everybody have one, unless you make perfect cuts with your patterns every single time. I don't, so I do a lot of fixing, but I'm going to go ahead and sand all this. All the edges and seams sanded and smooth and evened off now the way I want them, which is now no longer driving me bonkers. And the detail work I'm going to actually start is up here on this part of the shoulder cannon mount. And if you look at any reference photos, there's always all kinds of little, I don't know whose it's and what's it's. Steve Wang, I believe is his name, did the original sculpts for a lot of the stuff on the original Predator costume from the '87 film. And I've been looking at a lot of those reference photos to get ideas for mine. Now, one thing I want to point out about this that is already different is this is set over this way a little bit more. That's to make room for all the dreadlocks, the tons and tons of dreads. I think I have 60 some on my Predator mask, so it doesn't get all caught up on this. And I needed to finish all this and try it on because I wasn't sure if I was going to have the shoulder cannon coming straight up out of here, but I'm actually going to have it coming up off the side here. So this whole area is going to be left blank until I finally make the shoulder cannon and mount it, which like I said in the part 1 of this whole series, is that the shoulder cannon's going to probably be one of the last parts of this that I build. Probably have its own video just because there's so many things going on just the cannon part, let alone the arm and all that. It's kind of like a build unto itself. But first I'm going to start cutting out various little detail pieces and things like that and putting them all on here. First I'm taking some 2mm EVA foam and I cut it 1 inch wide by 2 1/3 inches long. And this is going to be glued on here about an 1/8 inch offset on the bottom and the side to form the side plate here. Right now that I have that strip glued on there, I have a whole collection of junk here, essentially. I don't even know what this is. These are screw anchors. I'll probably end up cutting them down the center and gluing on the half of them. I have whatever that is for a cable holder, pieces of screw covers, little discs of 2mm EVA foam, earbuds, just random junk. I don't even know what this is. I find all this crap, and other people would obviously throw this in the trash, but I save it. This is from a Dart Zone Havoc. I hate this little flappy thing on the top, so anytime I buy them, I always take it off. But what I'm going to do is start using some of these pieces along with some cuts of EVA foam and begin gluing them on here at various points to fill out some of the detail stuff. Oh boy, have I gone and glued a whole bunch of stuff up on here. So these red pieces, of course, are just more 2mm EVA foam. These circles are the 3mm EVA foam circles that I already had cut out and laying there. That is, of course, the door from the Dart Zone Havoc. And the little nail anchors or screw anchors or whatever I cut in half and glued 3 here and 1 here. And these little things I actually intend on hooking hoses into. I'm hoping the hoses don't have to be permanently attached. I want to have the hoses running out of the Predator mask here. That's how their biomask links up with their shoulder cannon assembly, is through these tubes or hoses or cables or whatever you want to call them. They look like tubes, but I suppose they could be cables of some sort that run from here into the actual shoulder cannon, and that helps them to control it. So I was hoping that they could be permanently attached here, and then I just plug them in, or have somebody assist me plugging them in after I put the mask on for the cosplay. So as far as this goes, you don't have to go out and replicate this exactly. Like, don't go buy a Havoc just to take it apart and pop the door off it. I'm just showing you that I used a bunch of junk to make it look official and cool. And you'll notice I didn't put a lot of the bigger, knobbier stuff that's going to catch, because I don't want the dreadlocks getting caught in this stuff. Because especially like these screw anchors here, wall anchors, they have some jagged little edges. I could have sanded off, but I didn't. I wanted them left there because I thought they would look pretty cool, weathered and painted at the end of it all. And as I let all that stuff dry, I want to point out that for the plastic stuff, I used a 2-part quick set epoxy, not instant set. I hate that stuff. It sets in like 60 seconds, a minute, I don't know. Way too fast. This stuff takes about 5 minutes. But the epoxy bonds okay with the foam, just as good as anything else. But what it really bonds with is these mold-injected plastics. And the rubber as well. It's on there really, really good. Same with this Dart Zone Havoc. This mold-injected plastic doesn't like contact cement, super glue, anything. And when I first started doing the cosplay stuff, and was painting up toy guns and watching cosplay videos, they were just using spray paint and super glue and hot glue and kind of making a mess. It wasn't until I found out the world of Nerf modding I started learning about the useful things of epoxy. So props out to all you guys on YouTube that make the Nerf videos. I watch them and I learn stuff from you just like anything else. Okay, so of course I'm probably going to go ahead and glue some more stuff to the shoulder cannon mount, but not right now. Instead, what I did was cut out the outer chest piece for the left and the right, and then I went ahead and sanded them. And I tried to film this sanding to show you with the Dremel what I did, but it is so hot in my garage that I was trying to film this, and it literally just shut off my camera. Like 45 seconds into filming this, it shut it off. It was too hot. And I had a message that said, extreme heat, camera inoperable. So that ended that, but I took the outer chest piece for this side and for this side over here, and I went ahead and sanded it down. And next I'm going to heat this and curve it so it conforms to this, and go ahead and glue both of these on with contact cement. Right, I got the chest pieces glued into place here. And I also cut out the left shoulder accent pieces, 1 and 2 of the number 2s, and glued them on like that. And you're also going to notice some of these rivet marks here. They are literal, I'm not joking, literal rivet marks. I actually have a bag of rivets, and I take the little silver ones and I push them in, and they essentially cut into the foam and leave these rivet marks. I'm going to start doing this type of detail work throughout some of the different plates and pieces. And if you've seen the Alien versus Predator film, you'll recognize this. I am going to be burning this into the armor with a wood burner later, but I decided while I was here messing around with the front to just go ahead and put that on now. And overall, I'm pretty stoked on how this is starting to shape. I put a bunch of my rivet marks all around here, and you'll notice these are quite deep. And the reason for that is I'm going to take my super glue here. I'm going to put some inside the hole, because these holes are driven all the way through, so that I can take my rivet and pop it in there. And the super glue will help to hold that in place. Bam! I'm going to put one in each one of all these other holes with some super glue. Okay, you can see I have all of these main rivets pressed in. And I did take my wood burner and burn in the symbol that I wanted here. This was a little tricky. Of course, wood burners, or at least my wood burner, does not have any sort of adjustment. So once it gets hot, it's hot. Like, I took a piece of scrap foam and did some trial and error test runs with it. Thought to myself, oh, I'm ready. And then when I went to do it, it was a little more complicated than I thought. But it came out looking pretty decent. I wanted it to look, like it was burned in with, the acid blood of a slain alien. So I think that turned out pretty good. Alright, the next thing I've done is googly eyes. Yes, that's right, googly eyes. This was suggested to me by Instagram user Cubster for photography. And I'm pretty sure I've already credited him on Instagram, but I'm going to credit him here as well. They make good rivets. They look goofy now, but when you paint them, they look like some nice robust rivets, which will be good in contrast to these other sunken ones and the other impressions that I've made. So now we have 3 basic rivet types, not doing anything else. I'm going to stay with those 3 rivet types through anywhere else on this build as I do anything else. And next, I'm going to start working on the side of this cannon. I've cut out these pieces that are labeled shoulder cannon mount left side plates. And this one is the first piece, and you just need one of those. And the other ones I cut out about 7. That's probably more than what I need, but I just got a little carried away. And these I'm going to contact cement to the side here. I'm going to be starting with the first piece, which fits right up in there. And the other ones are going to be underlapping all the way down. Okay, so prior to contact cementing these on overlapping like this, I did go through and use the heat gun on both sides to give them a little bit rounded so they don't look so flat and playing card like. And I used a little super glue to help seal these tips on each one of these so they don't come off. Okay, I used my X-Acto knife to make some cuts in the foam there, and after I did that, I used my heat gun to open it up. And once the foam had cooled again, I used a screw and just hand threaded it in and then pulled it out to make those nice little tiny rivet holes on that. And then on this opposing side over here, I also took my same rivet that I used to make the holes on the other pieces to put rivet holes in here. Next, I'm going to make a piece that's going to fit back in here, or I'm going to find some Nerf gun piece or something. I'm going to have a tube running out of here up into that. So I mentioned before, I am sorry for all the background noise from the fan, but I have to keep the AC running here because it is quite hot. And we just got this little guy right here, this little axolotl that needs a nice cool environment. So I'm keeping the temperature down. So what I did here was, took a piece of this crappy X-shot blaster that I had, a single shot breakdown, and this piece here was actually a part of the stock, and from that I attached a syringe cover and some hospital tubing that was donated to me, and I'm going to go ahead and reinforce all of this with epoxy. Alright, next what I have here is the upper side attachment pieces that kind of look like some crazy blade or like some woodworking tool. And what I'm doing with those is I'm going to overlap those. I've already glued one together here with contact cement for an example. Now, I did not glue this flat and then curve it, okay? I literally just used my leg and glued each piece to it. As you can see, I traced out and lined up where I was going to have the pieces in my contact cement. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this other side together. And where this is going to end up is back here. It's going to be the attachment piece that'll go underneath in the front in Velcro. I'll just cut off whatever excess I have and add Velcro to it. And this piece here is going to be glued onto the back here, just like that. So I have attached on both of these straps here, and I've also put some rivet marks on both sides of it. And down here I put on the shoulder cannon mount lower left plate, and that dark spots there are just some ovals that I carved in with a ballpoint pencil. I went through and put some rivet marks and stuck a rivet in right below it. And so far, pretty happy with how this is shaping up. Next, we're going to do a little bit more work on the shoulder cannon mount and try to finish up this back here. Alright, next I took the left shoulder back piece pattern, and you'll notice there's several lines in it. Those are cut lines. Once you cut it, you overlap the pieces, trim up any excess if you need to. And I already took a heat gun and heated the back and front of this. And I'm going to contact that piece is on and has its little riveted looking arrows in it. I am going to finish up the rest of this. And one of the things I decided was that this bottom was just too wide and not streamlined enough to have that classic kind of Predator feel to the lines of it. So what I did was I trimmed off this section here, and that will also expose some more of the back muscles that I'm going to be making for the undershell of this eventually. That's not going to be in this video, of course, but soon. And now that that's done, there's a few other plates and pieces I'm going to freehand cut and put in here, and maybe some cutting and heating in the foam itself. So for the side plate, I've decided to add, coming off of here, it's going to fit right in there. And how I came up with this was I cut a 2.5 inch wide strip, a strip basically a little bit shorter than the length of this combined, and I just took a scrap piece of 3mm EVA foam and I pressed it against it. When I flipped it over, I could see the indentation from these blade looking tips of the side strap here, and that's how I trimmed that out. And this side, I'm not going to be doing anything like that because I have this here. And if you ever look at the Predator armor, you will notice that both sides are not symmetrical in the sense they're not exact on both sides. Obviously, they have their like med pack and shoulder, or their plasma caster, shoulder cannon. They have all this stuff somewhat different on either side. So it's fine if it isn't exact, but I didn't want this piece to fit exactly the way that I wanted it to fit. So in order to get that, I had to custom cut this one. Okay, so I added on my piece, and then I cut a little square with a half moon out of it, just cuz, and carved some stuff in with an X-acto knife. And here I did 3 lines of the X-acto knife, heated it so that they would expand on both sides. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Next thing I'm going to be working on is a shoulder cannon, which is going to be coming off this side here. And the shoulder cannon itself is kind of going to be its own video. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for this. Hopefully, this gave you guys some ideas. You learned something new. You're interested. I do have the patterns up on Facebook. I am going to put them up on Etsy now that this part 2 is done. And that's just going to be Predator armor patterns. I'm probably going to have, in fact, I'm pretty certain I'm going to have to do a separate set just for the shoulder cannon over here, just because that's going to be so many pieces. I can only upload so many files at a time, so it's going to be Predator armor part 1, 2, etc. Predator armor shoulder cannon, etc. I do have to charge so much per listing just because Etsy charges me to put the stuff up, but I'm going to try to keep it as inexpensive as possible. And thanks to everybody for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. It does help out the channel. And as always, thank you guys for watching and have a great day.